Hi, I'm Justin Call, the president of Broomstick Monkey Games, and what you're about to view is a video tutorial for how to set up a 4-player board for playing a 4-player game of Imperial Harvest. So, first thing we're going to do, I've got 2 copies of Imperial Harvest, 2 copies of the base game that I've taken to create these components that we're going to be using. So you can't do this with the base game, but you can do it with 2 copies of the base game, and each time you have 2 copies of the game, or a copy of the game, you can add 2 more players to the table. And what I'm about to do now with this board setup, this is one of the many board setups that are suggested in the back of the rulebook. If you start on page 16, you'll see an explanation of how to set up a 2-player board, and moving past that, after you've learned the basics of how to set up a board, we give examples how you might set up a 4-player board. But again, that's just an example. You can do many different kinds of setups. 4-player, 8-player, 6-player. You can even play odd numbers of players, but you're going to want to control an equal number of characters for each team. Now, as you're setting up the moat, you're going to notice it's a little bit loose here. That's because we don't have any pieces set inside yet. So this is the board that you see here, located on the very last page of the rulebook. And so we've set up our moat just like so. Very cool. And you'll notice that in the center we have all of the strawberry camps, which is kind of fun because then everybody's racing towards the center. And that's what we're going to be building now. And we've got on the top here, we've got some rectangular tiles, we've got the character camps there. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in and start lining this with the rectangular tiles as noted on there. And as I've mentioned in the previous videos, how you choose to orient these tiles is completely random. They're double-sided. They can be rotated, of course, however you choose, and it's not going to affect the board setup significantly. Excuse me for a moment while I quickly align all of these. I'm assuming I'm getting all of this right. Let's see, strawberry camps go in the middle. And we're going to set the warriors up here. Now, it does take a bit more time to set up a 4-player board. It's also a bit more fun. There's a lot more options, a lot more pieces. We've set up some really interesting boards while we were playtesting this game, but we're just going to go over some of the basic ones here. So I've got my, you'll notice I've got my Imperial Servants at the bottom and the Northern Raiders at the top. I don't like, personally, to put camps that belong to my characters close to them. I like to put them actually far away because then it encourages me to have to cross the board and interact with my enemies, which makes the game more interesting. So I suggest putting your strawberry camps a little bit further. Basically, rather than camping your strawberry camps right next to your character camps, you're going to camp them just a little bit further away, closer to the enemy. And then we fill in these holes here, these tiles, and we're ready to go. Okay, so that is the 4-player board. Let's see if we can view this from the top. I don't have a very tall tripod, so you're going to have to bear with me as I do everything. But you can see the 4-player board looks pretty nice. Next thing we're going to want to do, you can add strawberries now, or you could add them after you add the bridges. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and add them now, though, because it's a critical part of the game. And it's not very complicated, but it is important that it's consistently done. Otherwise, you're gonna have strawberries that are too easy to capture or too close to one team versus another. So when setting up the board, you're going to want to keep this symmetrical. Typically in the two-player board, we put some strawberries in the center, but now the strawberry camps are there. So we're going to have to be a little bit more creative. And the first and easiest thing to do whenever you're doing this, the outside rectangular tiles, which there are many of, you're going to want to go ahead and place your strawberries in the middle outer perimeter of those tiles. Every single one. So if it's a rectangular tile, place your strawberry in the center on the perimeter. And that is going to start to form a bit of a circle around your board, kind of like you've traced it with a pen, I guess. You do still have the square tiles that are there, which I accidentally placed a strawberry on just a second ago, but that's important too. So looking up here, you can see, let's see if I've missed any strawberries. I have. So now normally I would suggest placing them here on the outer perimeter, but we've got a character camp right here. And you do not want to have a strawberry right next to a character camp. You always want to have a strawberry at least 2 spaces away. Otherwise it just makes, it's basically a no, it's not a it's not a strategic decision. You know you're going to be going for that strawberry if it's right next to your character camp. So it has to be at least 2 spaces away. So you're like, okay, well, do I go for this one that's 2 spaces away, or do I go for that one that's 2 spaces away? Which character is going to move first? If you place them too close, it makes things too obvious and it doesn't make it an interesting game. So we've got those strawberries placed there. And again, this is explained in the rule book. But then for the outer square tiles, we're going to kind of fill in this line that we've got going on. So rather than placing the strawberries way off here in the corner and forcing people to chase after them, we're going to place them here. And as long as I'm placing these, this is a great example I mentioned in the 2-player video. Occasionally you run into spots where 2 hedges are next to each other and basically creating a wall where you can't really navigate through that. That is okay. That's part of the game. Because you remember, before you even started playing the game, you haven't drafted any characters yet for your teams. So you can choose, A, where you're going to be placing your character camp. So maybe you want to force your enemy to be over here. Because really, technically, your character camps, you place these last. So these camps that are in the corners here, and the camps that are in the center, you take those all out, place all your strawberries first, and then you're going to take turns choosing where you place your camps. That's technically how it's scripted. When you're playing a 4-player game, you do oftentimes have to decide on how the board's going to be set up before you actually start playing. But in a scenario like this, you could rotate the tiles to prevent that blockage from happening, but I actually like, when I'm playing with people that know how to play, I like to leave little things like that. And then I'll use my ethereal characters to get over that wall of hedges, or I'll use characters like the barbarian to chop down the hedges. And those aren't really obstacles. They're just tactical opportunities for me to navigate, where if I plan ahead, I can successfully navigate the hedge maze. And if my opponent does not plan ahead, then I'm going to beat him more handily. So we've got our outer strawberries placed. Now we're going to look at the inner tiles here. We can't place strawberries in these camps, and again, we don't want to place a strawberry right next to it, because then as soon as you get to that camp, you're just going to pick up that strawberry and drop it right in your strawberry camp. So you want to place them a little bit further away, and in this scenario, I'm going to suggest, I'm going to place 2 strawberries here, and back over here, keep things symmetrical. And now these other strawberries I could place here and here, or I could place here and here, or I could move these here. I mean, really, there's a lot of choices for how I choose to set these up. I do prefer to be symmetrical, but in this case, I'm going to choose to do the strawberry setup this way. And there are 2 extra strawberries that you typically will get when you're setting up your board for a 2-player game. For a 4-player game, there's 4 extra strawberries. So what you'll see that I've done here, essentially these 2 strawberries, these 2, and these 2 formed their own kind of circle. And then I added these 2 on the longer tiles in order to create a consistent circle. And those extra strawberries, I'm going to want to place my hydras close to those extra strawberries. But instead of placing them right here, I'm also going to be placing them close to the character camp. So closest to the extra strawberry you can go, and closest to the character camp you can go, that's where you want to set up your hydras, which in this case is in the 4 corners. Nice tight spots. So that's a 4-player setup. You do need to still set up your bridges, and you're going to take turns setting those up. So if you're the Imperial Servants, you're going to take one of these guys, 2 of these guys actually, because it's 4-player. And you're going to set up your bridge. So one player might set one up here, and another one might set one up here. And then it'd be the turn for the Northern Raiders. And, you know, let's say that they can't place a bridge here to block the other guys. Well, actually, they could, because typically you're going to want to place your bridges close to where your character camp is to figure out how you want to set up your boards. But in this scenario, let's say that you really wanted to mess with people. You've got a moat right here, and one bridge goes on each moat tile. And so there's a moat tile here that has no bridge. Now, typically, if you're an Imperial Servant, you're going to end up placing a bridge here, close to a strawberry, or maybe over here. You're not going to want to place it close to that Hydra, though. You're going to want to place it over here close to the strawberries and away from getting attacked by that Hydra. But since I'm a mean Northern Raider, I'm going to place a bridge there, which is legal because it's on its own L-shaped moat tile, which means this Hydra is constantly attacking these 2 bridges, and he's going to have to be moved here or here, which makes him move a lot faster towards the other camps, which is a really nasty way to affect your opponents. And the other teammate that I have, he's a lot nicer, so he's gonna just choose to place his bridge right over here. And then again, because it's the Imperial Servants' turn, they get to place, because it's the Northern Raiders' turn, they get to place all of their hedges, all of their bridges, and then the Imperial Servants place their last ones. And so now that I've placed one of mine in an evil scenario, I'm going to place the other one. I'll place it over here so that the Hydra's not too close. And then the Imperial Servants looking, oh, excuse me, I've still got one more to set down, so we'll set it over here. And the Imperial Servants have 2 bridges left. They have to fill in the moats that have not received a bridge, which in this case is one here. And bridge, bridge, this one's missing a bridge, and so they're going to be mean too. They're going to place it right next to the Hydra in a similar sort of take that scenario. So that's a full board setup for 4 players. The Imperial Servants are going to place their characters here and here. They're trying to drop off their strawberries here. See that? Northern Raiders are up here, and they're going to be moving and dropping their strawberries off right here. That's just one example, of course, of a 4-player board. As I mentioned, there are many ways to set up a board of Imperial Harvest, and in fact, there's one of them right there. It's more of a snake pattern. We have more examples posted on our website. We encourage you to check those out. But if you're going to set up a 4-player game, this is a quick way to do it.